You walk into the office kitchen and someone is already waiting by the coffee machine. The distance to the door suddenly feels enormous. You do not hate the person, you simply do not know what kind of conversation this moment expects. If you are among introverts who dislike entering conversations without a map, ask what this experience is responding to and what would make it more useful. That question opens a better conversation than another quick judgment about your personality. People sometimes reduce small talk as an introvert to being antisocial, awkward, unfriendly, or incapable of conversation. That conclusion is too small to explain the experience. Small talk is a low-stakes bridge, not a performance of instant charm. It helps two people test attention safety and shared context before deciding whether a longer conversation makes sense. The behavior can make sense without being ideal, and understanding its purpose does not excuse every consequence. There is no single personality type behind small talk as an introvert. Temperament, learning, stress, relationships, culture, and practical circumstances can combine in different proportions. Treat this explanation as a framework, not a diagnosis, and keep only what matches the evidence of your life. Start with one possible mechanism. Introverts may prefer depth because predictable subjects reduce the effort of searching for the next line. Hold this first explanation lightly and compare it with what your body choices and energy actually do. Compare this first clue across several situations before deciding what it means. Watch how that looks in a workday. You comment on the unusual weather, then follow the answer toward a weekend plan. In the first scene, the need beneath the behavior matters more than how the behavior looks from outside. Read the first scene through need timing and aftermath rather than appearance. A second layer is easy to miss. Self-monitoring consumes attention that could otherwise notice what the other person offers. The second explanation becomes useful only when the same conditions repeatedly produce a similar response. Use the second clue only if it predicts more than one response. The experience becomes clearer in private. A coworker's mugbook or lunch provides a simple detail already belonging to the room. The private scene reveals whether the response brings genuine recovery or merely delays discomfort. Use the private example to compare real recovery with delayed discomfort. The third piece concerns attention. Open questions work best when they are specific enough to answer without delivering a life story. For the third explanation, distinguish what you observed from the meaning you assigned afterward. Keep observation and interpretation separate while testing the third clue. Social situations add another clue. Someone gives a short answer and you let the exchange end without treating it as failure. The social scene shows what happens when belonging, visibility, or another person's expectations enter the equation. Let the social example reveal the extra weight of belonging and visibility. Another part appears under pressure. Good listening creates momentum, because follow-up questions do not require a new topic. This fourth possibility matters most when pressure changes the intensity, timing, or cost of the response. Pressure is the comparison point for the fourth clue. Now place the same response inside a stressful week. You share one small fact about yourself, making the conversation reciprocal instead of an interview. The stressful week example separates a stable preference from a temporary response to depleted capacity. Use the stressful example to check whether depleted capacity changes the response. A final mechanism helps explain repetition. A clear exit reduces anxiety by proving that starting a conversation does not trap you inside it. The fifth explanation should increase choice. Discard it if it only supplies a more sophisticated insult. A useful fifth clue creates options instead of another fixed identity. One final scene separates a trait from a trap. After 2 minutes, you say you need to get back to work and leave while the interaction still feels warm. The final scene asks whether the behavior remains flexible when circumstances, energy, or relationships change. Let the final example test whether choice remains available as circumstances change. To make the introvert small talk pattern more precise, compare 3 conditions: a rested day, a depleted day, and a day spent with people who feel safe. Notice whether the response changes in speed, intensity, or cost. If it shifts with context, the context belongs in the explanation. That comparison prevents one difficult moment from becoming a permanent identity. Look for a counterexample to introvert small talk as carefully as you look for confirmation. Remember a time when the usual response did not happen, happened less strongly, or ended sooner. Ask what was different about preparation, energy, environment, expectations, and support. A counterexample reveals the conditions that make greater choice possible. The hidden cost of introvert small talk deserves equal honesty. Avoiding every brief interaction can make work and community feel colder, but forcing endless conversation can leave you depleted and resentful. Preserve whatever the response protects, connects, restores, or clarifies. Change the portion, reducing freedom, straining trust, or moving you farther from what you value. Start by observing the pattern. Begin with the shared environment, the meeting commute food event, or task in front of both of you. A second step is practical. Ask a low-pressure question that can be answered briefly and expanded only if interest is present. Third, make the change specific. Listen for one detail you can follow instead of preparing 3 future lines while the person speaks. Fourth, make the new response repeatable. Offer a small piece of yourself so the other person is not carrying the entire exchange. Fifth, use support carefully. Use names when you know them, and remember one ordinary detail for the next encounter. Sixth, review what actually happened. Prepare a graceful exit such as, "Good talking with you. I need to get back to this." Finally, know when more support is needed. Measure success by creating ease for a moment, not by turning every stranger into a deep connection. Small talk is a tool, not a personality transplant. You can become skillful at brief connection while still protecting solitude and preferring deeper conversations. Flexibility means choosing among several responses instead of being pushed into one move. An understandable response does not have to become the only move available. Try one 7-day experiment designed for introvert small talk, but do not repeat a generic ritual every day. Choose one relevant action, use it in a real situation, and record the outcome. Keep revise, or discard the experiment according to evidence rather than guilt. The next coffee machine moment needs only one honest opening, one real response, and permission to leave. You do not have to become the loudest person in the room. You only need a bridge wide enough for 2 people to cross. The goal is not a new label. It is enough understanding and flexibility to make a more deliberate next choice.